DayZ Badlands has just received another developer update, and while this one might not have the huge headline features we saw in the previous devlog, there is still some very interesting details hidden inside it. Week 79 focused primarily on two things: the new dust particle system coming with Badlands, and the introduction of the Lee-Enfield rifle. And while dust might not immediately sound like the most exciting feature in the world, some of the mechanics behind it could actually have a much bigger impact on gameplay than you might expect. So let's take a look at everything revealed in the latest DayZ Badlands developer blog. The first major topic is the new dust particle system being developed for Badlands. Obviously, Nasdara is going to be a much hotter, drier environment than the maps that we've been used to playing. So dust is going to be an important part of creating the atmosphere. Vehicles travelling across certain surfaces will now generate visible dust trails behind them. And there are actually two different effects working together. The first is a large dust cloud that remains behind the vehicle for a period of time. The size and duration of that cloud changes depending on the type and weight of the vehicle. The second is a smaller ambient dust effect generated individually around the wheels. Combined, these should make vehicles feel much more connected to the environment, rather than simply driving across a static surface, and this applies to cars, trucks, and importantly, the new motorbikes coming with Badlands. But there's a much more interesting detail here. This technology isn't actually restricted to Badlands. The developers say dust can effectively be assigned as a property to different surfaces, meaning the system could potentially be introduced to existing terrain and maps where appropriate. So although it's being developed because of Nasdara, this could become another improvement that eventually benefits DayZ as a whole. Dust could give away your position. Where this starts getting particularly interesting is when dust stops being purely visual. Players moving around inside buildings can disturb the environment, footsteps can create small clouds of dust, but walking around upstairs could also cause floorboards to creak and dust to fall from the ceiling below. And that means another player could potentially know you're above them. Imagine you're clearing a building and suddenly dust starts dropping from the ceiling. You now know somebody is moving around on the floor above you. That's no longer just an environmental effect, that's information. And DayZ is a game where tiny pieces of information can completely change an encounter. Footsteps, doors opening, infected reacting, gunshots in the distance. They're all things experienced players use to understand what's happening around them, and dust potentially becomes another one of those signals. How the dust system works. Bohemia also gave us an interesting look at how they're trying to make all of this work. Without destroying performance, most of these dust effects are generated client-side, meaning the game doesn't need to constantly synchronize every particle across the server. The notable exception is the dust falling from the ceilings when another player walks above you, because that actually communicates information between players. Instead of generating dust everywhere across Nasdara, the game creates it within a localized area around the player. The system then predicts your movement. If you're driving quickly in one direction, for example, the active area generating the particles moves with you. Rather than wasting resources creating dust somewhere you've already left behind, airborne dust works in a similar way. Particles are generated upwind from the player's view, and then travel towards and past the camera. So the game can create the illusion that the dust is moving throughout the entire environment without actually having to simulate particles across the entire map. It's a clever bit of optimization. Weather will affect the dust. The system also reacts to environmental conditions. Wind direction and wind strength influence how dust behaves at ground level. Stronger winds can increase how frequent dust appears, while airborne particles are generated according to the direction the wind is travelling. Time of day will also influence how the effects appear. It's another small step towards making Nasdara feel like an environment that's actually reacting to what's happening around you, rather than simply being a desert texture placed underneath the player. And I'm very interested to see what this looks like during genuinely bad weather, because if Badlands can create moments where visibility is significantly affected by dust and wind, suddenly travelling through Nasdara could become a very different experience depending on the conditions. The Lee-Enfield. The second half of the developer blog focuses on another new weapon coming with Badlands, the Lee-Enfield. More specifically, DayZ's version is based on the No. 1 Mark III, commonly known as the SMLE. The short magazine Lee-Enfield. Bohemia has gone into quite a surprising amount of historical detail with this one. The in-game model uses light teak style wood and includes details associated with rifles produced at rifle factory Isafir in India. That includes the crossbolt through the rear of the forward stock, sometimes referred to by collectors as the Isafir screw. Alongside another reinforcement positioned ahead of the receiver, the rifle itself is even stamped with RFI to reflect that heritage. Bohemia actually obtained a movie prop version of the Lee-Enfield and used it as a physical reference while creating the in-game weapon. But there's one major difference between the historical rifle and the version we're getting in DayZ. Why does it use 7.62 by 54mm rounds? Traditionally, the Lee-Enfield is associated with .303 British ammunition. But before everybody immediately heads to the comments to tell me they've got the calibre wrong, they haven't. The version coming to DayZ has deliberately been converted to fire 7.62 54mm rounds, the same ammunition already used by the Mosin. And importantly, this isn't something Bohemia simply invented for the game. The developers have based it on a real-world calibre conversion. The process involves setting the barrel back slightly, machining the chamber end to restore the correct head sphere, and then cutting a new chamber using a Mosin chamber reamer. Because the bullet diameter is compatible and the magazine can accommodate the cartridge, the rifle can use the 7.62 54s. But for DayZ, there's another very obvious reason for doing it: the loot economy. Adding .303 British would mean introducing an entirely new ammunition type, primarily for one rifle. Instead, the Lee-Enfield can slot directly into the existing ammunition economy, using a cartridge players already know and collect. The rifle feeds from a detachable 10-round magazine, and that could make this a very interesting alternative to the Mosin. We've effectively got another bolt-action rifle, firing one of DayZ's established full-power cartridges, but this time with a 10-round magazine. Exactly where the Lee-Enfield sits in the weapon progression, how common is it, where it spawns, and how it compares with the Mosin is something we'll just have to discover when we finally get our hands on Badlands. What's coming next? That wraps up the main Week 79 developer blog, but Bohemia has also given us another indication of what's coming. The next major developer blog could focus on Nasdara's public infrastructure and potentially the highway system. Nothing has been completely confirmed yet, but that's apparently where the team would like to take us next. We're not expecting another recap blog within the next week or two, and these recap blogs have become worth paying attention to, because Bohemia isn't simply repeating the previous information. They specifically said these updates are being used to answer community questions, clarify previous reveals, and occasionally sneak in completely new information. With Badlands now only a few months away, the development team has also warned that the future blogs may become less unified. As the presence increases towards release, we could start seeing smaller pieces of completely different systems appearing alongside each other. As development moves towards the finish line, for me, the biggest takeaway this week isn't actually the Lee-Enfield, it's the dust. Not necessarily because it looks good, but because they're beginning to turn it into another source of information within the world. Vehicles leaving clouds behind them, wind affecting the environment, players disturbing dust inside buildings, movement upstairs potentially revealing someone's position to the person underneath. Those are exactly the kind of small systems that can create completely unscripted situations in DayZ. And the fact that at least some of this technology can potentially be applied to outside Badlands makes it even more interesting. As always, everything shown is still a work in progress and could change before release, but we're another 3 weeks further down the road to Badlands, and another little piece of Nasdara is starting to fall into place. If you've enjoyed this video and want to keep updated on Badlands, please remember to like and subscribe for more DayZ content and to catch my live streams. Stay safe, survivors, and I'll see you in the next one.